All right, so nice to have you here this afternoon. We're here to talk about our Community Connects call for workshops, program proposals. My name is Katie Belshaw. I'm head of programming with Brampton Arts Organization. For those of you who may not be as familiar with Brampton Arts Org, we are an organization that supports primarily professional development for artists and arts orgs in the city and Brampton. We do a lot of advocacy work as well. We put on programs of our own. But the real reason for this call for Community Connects proposals is to allow for folks like you, folks in the community who know what you would like to be leading, what your communities are looking for, what would support your career growth, what your interests are. Community Connects program is really a space for you to propose to us what that may look like. And I recognize it's lunchtime. I'm going to be doing a bunch of talking. Maybe I'll present for about 20 minutes or so. But then I would love to invite you all to either in the chat or to unmute yourselves to talk about the proposals that you're looking for. If you did have any specific questions about the program, I think we'll have space and time today to go over them. And yes, cameras on or off, however you'd like to show up today. I'm sure some of you are eating lunch in the background. So I'm going to get started with the presentation. Let me start my screen share. And we can get going. So feel free, I will be looking at the chat, but feel free to unmute yourself if you had a question as we go along, if I missed something or you'd like to come back to anything. So the structure for today is, of course, going over our Community Connects proposal. And let me bring up the agenda for us here. And make sure I've got my setup ready. So we'll talk through for about 20-25 minutes or so. I'll chat about the program itself. We'll go over it holistically. I've got some really interesting ideas and some inspiration from past projects and some projects just to spark some ideas and conversation. We'll go through some of the program expectations. We'll also go through selection criteria. We'll spend some time on the application itself, what it looks like, and then we'll open it up to Q&A and discussion. But after each piece of information we'll go through, I'll ask if there are questions, and I do invite you to unmute yourself and we can have conversation. Okay, so I spoke a little bit about the impetus for Community Connects, but what this program is proposals for workshops, events, meetups, gatherings, any programming for the rest of 2025. And it's meant to be programmed by Brampton Creatives, so folks like you online, for Brampton Creatives and the general public. Application deadline is Sunday, June 22nd, so the application is still open for a bit of time. And there's time as well after this presentation if you continue to have more questions to reach out to myself and our team. There's a bit of a typo on the slide. We've adjusted the funding for this round of Community Connects to be up to $750. We've done this just to try and be able to fund as many projects as we can with the money that we have available. So for this round of Community Connects, you were able to receive up to $750 of funding. And we'll talk through what that funding can be for, how you can allocate it. We'll go through some past program budgets as well. In terms of what does the program support? So again, by Brampton Creatives for Brampton Creatives, supporting you folks to build and grow your portfolios, your facilitation experience, your programming experience, what it's like to build a workshop, and then to take that and propose it elsewhere to different folks in Brampton or other job experiences that you're looking for. Grant writing as well, it's a great thing to have on your CV. Programs that we're looking for are multidisciplinary in any discipline. We're not saying just visual arts or just performing arts. It can kind of be whatever makes sense for you that you're proposing within your discipline. We're interested in projects that support community building. And in general, we're looking at programs that we don't run ourselves or we haven't previously run. So for instance, we run a regular grant writing series. We wouldn't necessarily be looking for a grant writing workshop, but you could make the case that there's a specific community need and you can offer the skills and service to fill that. And that's something that we could consider. Okay. So that's a bit about the program in general. In terms of who can apply, you have to be somebody that's living in Brampton. You have to be 18 years of older. You are proposing a workshop within your creative discipline. And we'll also need, in order to make the payment to you, a social insurance number, and you will receive a T4A for the funding that you've received. And just to iterate here, both artists and arts orgs are welcome to apply. You don't have to be an individual artist. You could be part of an organization or a collective, a group of artists. It doesn't just have to be one person with the application. Okay. So a lot of text here, but this information is important, and you'll find it in the community guidelines for the program as well. I won't necessarily go over all of this, but if there are questions, we can certainly come back to it. So programs are taking place within this calendar year. They're delivered by yourself. They're held in City of Brampton. We would hope that the venue itself is accessible and that the venue is also accessible by public transit. Not everyone may be driving. The program is ideally free or using a pay what you can model. Programs have to be a minimum of 1 hour in length, and then we look to you to tell us, how long you may want the program to be. Some of our other applicants have led programs across a number of different weekends, so that's a possibility as well. The program can be in person or virtual, whichever makes the most sense for you. And the entire budget, so up to $750, is used to deliver the program. And sort of a remnant from COVID, but any Peel public health mandates as they come up would need to be adhered to. Okay, so we've gone through some of the requirements. We've gone through generally what the program is for and about and what we're looking for. And in terms of what projects do we fund, we're looking for a clear audience and clear learning goals. So really what we're looking for is that you've identified who this workshop is for. It's not just a made up community. There are people that would be attending, that our money would be going to a good place. There is some sort of connection to Brampton, and for yourself, a connection to the creative community. And then really for this round, projects that are supporting your creative career and your professional development. So that can look like a number of different things. And when we get to the application, you'll be able to see where you can give us some insight onto how to tell us how it's supporting your career. And then, of course, interesting ideas, new things, projects that you haven't had funding for yet. You've been chatting with your artist friends about this cool idea, this interesting concept, but you haven't been able to figure out how to do it. Perhaps this could be a way to get you organized to make it happen, and then watch the program snowball from there. This could be the first start, or maybe you already have something ongoing. If you were successful in your Community Connects application, you could then take it to other granting bodies, other organizations as well. Okay, so I'll pause here briefly. If there are any questions, I'll leave the floor open, and then I'm going to get into some inspiration and some past projects for us to review. Okay. So a couple of ideas. These are projects that, as staff, we've brainstormed. Ideas, events that we've gone to that we have enjoyed, also ideas from artists that we've heard in community that they were interested in leading. This list is, of course, not exhaustive, and there's way more that could be added to it. But just to get you thinking around the possibilities, we're not really putting on any parameters in terms of what the workshops could be or look like, other than they're supporting your career. There's some community building impetus around them, and you're bringing people together and you're proposing something that's in your artistic discipline. So this could look like putting on an art exhibition in a non-traditional space, a restaurant, a laundromat, a hair salon. I think in our first year of Community Connects, we had a collective of artists that did an exhibition at the Rose Theater. You could think of other different types of venues as well. You could organize an art market for the general public. So one of our successful applications from our last round is leading an artist market in the old shoe factory coming up in October. It could be a networking social for Brampton creatives, something that is around skill and knowledge sharing, skill development. You could organize a film screening. We had one applicant do that at Cyril Clark. You could run an open mic in any discipline. You could plan a pop-up performance or a concert in a Brampton park or a venue. Any kind of workshop that helps you grow as a creative and develop your creative practice. You could do a table reading for playwrights and actors. We've had that one happen before. Just a couple of ideas here. And some images and examples of past programs. So this was the film screening that we spoke about. It was called Borrowed Ears for BIPOC racialized artists in Brampton. We had a community cyanotype workshop that we put with our summer artist market last summer, I believe. We had African dance workshop that was really well attended, and I was not there, but it looks like a lot of fun. And this was again maybe from our first year. We was 2023, so a couple of years ago now. But this was a workshop held at the Brampton Entrepreneur Center on creative direction, styling, and a bit of branding as well. And this workshop was a mindful move. So this was like a stretching, breathing mindfulness for dancers, movement artists. And this was also held at the Brampton Shoe Factory. So those are, oops, and go back. Those are just a couple of examples. And I'm curious to hear from you folks that are in the audience if you would like to share. Feel free to unmute yourself. What type of idea or project are you thinking of proposing? Even put it in the chat if you'd like.
Hi, I'm happy to chime in.
Okay,
So this picture is actually in my studio at the
nice.
Aura House in the old shoe factory. We had Cheyenne, the artist, utilized our space. But I have so many ideas. I would love to bring drag performances to Brampton in our space, make the markets in our space, and I'm on this call partially because I have these ideas myself, but I don't necessarily know how to put them together and make them happen. And I also want to be a space that people can utilize for their own projects. So yeah, that's a little bit on me.
Okay, nice. Well, that's good to know. I mean, maybe we can continue to chat around your space because that's always such a need for folks who want to put on interesting events and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm very, very open. I'd love to have anything to do with, spoken word, drag, dance, art installments, interactive paint night, not paint night, but live painting, things like that. I think would be a really cool thing to explore.
Nice. Yeah, well, maybe if there are other artists on the call, I mean, it could be interesting to maybe there's an artist with an idea or something could be paired with your space, perhaps.
Yeah. Thank you for hearing me.
Thanks.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hi there. Yep.
Hi, my name is Edwin. I'm a stop motion animator from Brampton/Toronto, and I actually have an idea for a workshop to do. I've run a few myself in the past with kids and students from TMU, and they're always pretty fun. We teach people about stop motion, about filmmaking. We have all these live displays of cameras and setups and puppets that people can use to make their own animations. And it's a grand old time. I'm wondering, I know there is actually an artist that works with you guys named Seema, who works in stop motion. I'm not sure if this wasn't been done already, but if it hasn't been, I'd be happy to pitch an idea for it.
Nice. Yes, we do have we have a studio program that's ongoing in the back of our office space. So we have 9 artists in residence until the end of July. So Sima is one of the artists. She's an animator. So I'm sure if you're looking for connection, if I heard that right, I would be happy to connect you both if you're not already.
We follow each other on Instagram, but we've never actually met. So.
Okay.
But yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. And I see another project in the chat. This person is considering having a workshop on twining, kind of a make and take project using materials that are considered waste from previous projects. Nice. Okay, yeah, so there's a big breadth of different types of workshops and ideas here. Does anyone else like to share?
Yeah, I'd like to share actually.
Go
Hi.
ahead.
So I'm actually in between like two ideas possibly. So maybe like a Caribbean arts and wellness type of event. Um, so that's one. Actually, they'd be two separate, or maybe I could combine them, like arts and wellness together, and how to formulate it. So it'd be multidiscipline, maybe some dance and different things like that. But really centering like the Caribbean, but open for everyone, of course, but just giving that knowledge of different aspects of it. And yeah, so that's kind of the main idea right now.
Nice. I can see by the smile on your face, it's a project you're really excited about. Okay, I'll leave the floor open for a little bit longer in case anyone else did want to share. Okay, so we'll keep going, but feel free to put your project in the chat if you want to, and we can come back to it. Okay, so as we keep moving along, we'll go through expectations of the project for now. Then we'll come back to the application itself and selection criteria, and then we'll have time again for more conversation at the end of the presentation. So what the expectations are of this grant is that you are fully responsible for the delivery of the programming, the workshop event that you've proposed in your application. Of course, we're here as brainstormers. We can be connectors. If something goes wrong, you're trying to source something, we can help. We're here to support. We're very friendly and we like to be in conversation with you folks. So it's not to say that we're not going to be helpful or available, but this program is yours. You're the owner of its success. And so we just want to make that clear from the get-go. So when we break this down, what does this look like, the full organization of the event? Part of it, of course, would be finding your venue. We have a couple of suggestions of spaces. This is not exhaustive, but Brampton Library is sometimes able to support. The Snellgrove Community Center is a really great resource and has been used by past Community Connects folks. They have an artist rate, so you can just, the link is here, and I'll share these slides and the presentation, the recording of this presentation afterwards. So you'll have a link to the booking form. I believe the artist rate is about $20, $25 an hour, so it's really affordable. There's different Brampton on Stage performing arts venues that could be possibilities. And of course, City of Brampton facility rentals, so any rec center across the city could work. We've also just recently been in contact with Happy Hands Pottery, which is at the old shoe factory as well. And they're open to rentals of their space. And we're working at a subsidized rate with them. So if that was a space you were interested in, feel free to email us or put that in your application and we can see what we can work out in the back end. Another piece, so you've got your venue, you've got what you're going to teach, you've figured out who your audience is, and now it's going to be up to you to market your project to your intended audience and handle all registration. So we're going to be able to support from the Brampton Arts Organization perspective by resharing your tiles, putting your workshop into our newsletter, those sorts of things. But you'll be the primary person responsible for marketing, getting the word out, and handling all the registration needs for your workshops. From BOW, we typically like to use Eventbrite. There are other tools. Eventbrite is free, so that would be one that I would suggest if you are looking at handling registration. Okay. Another component, if you are successful in your grant, would be to formally recognize our support of your program. So this would be using our logo in any marketing materials that you would be making to tag us, to tag your local counselor. We say to tag your local counselor because it's good for them to know about the work that we're doing, that you're doing, that artists are here and doing good work in the community. You never know what could happen from it. Maybe they attend. Sometimes counselors have their own budget that they work with. It's good to be in contact with them if you are proposing a new project. Good to send them just a little blurb and how to attend if you were doing something as part of Community Connects or otherwise, sort of just a good practice. Acknowledge our support in any written materials, and if there are any remarks at your event, that you are recognizing Brampton Arts Organization. So just continuing on with expectations. Again, all of the program facilitation would be up to you. We are likely not able to be present for all of the different Community Connects programming. If there are any changes, updates to your program, let us know. If you had any photographs, videos of the event, send them to us. We'd love to highlight them on our socials, perhaps in our annual report. It's just good for us to have to share the success of what we're doing and what you're doing. We help us celebrate your work. And then insurance is another important component. This will vary depending on what type of workshop, program, event you're hosting. We can make some suggestions on who to reach out to. We found that Duo, D-U-U-O, with the cooperators is pretty affordable. You can get a quick quote right away, and you can include that in your program budget. Okay. So in terms of how we review the applications, this is our selection criteria here. And in terms of who is going to be reviewing the applications, it'll be us at BOW, but we also open it up to local artists. So for the Community Connects panel, we'll have past successful applicants of Community Connects on the panel and folks in a variety of different disciplines so that they can help support us look at different applications across different art forms. So the biggest bucket of score that you'll have for your application is your program proposal. So this is the quality and creativity of what you've proposed. The scope is feasible. That's a big one. Is your budget aligned with what you laid out? Did you propose a 1-hour workshop, but you're trying to cram, 5 days of work into 1 or 3 hours? Do you have that audience? Do you know who the program is for? What's it going to support? It's not duplicating an existing experience. It's unique and of its own. And it's a value add for access to arts and culture for the general public and for both Brampton creatives as well. The next component of selection criteria is artistic experience. So are you a practicing artist? You don't need to be defined as necessarily a professional artist like from the Ontario Arts Council, but are you working in your field? Do you have demonstrated commitment to what you're doing in your career as an artist in your practice? Have you had some experience facilitating programs? We don't need you to be an expert by any means, but we want to see that you've had some thought and could take on leading and facilitating a workshop or program of your own. And is the project that you're proposing aligned with your career? So are you a visual artist, but you're proposing a open mic night for poets, but you yourself don't have any experience with poetry or the literary arts? So we're looking for some alignment there, or if it's not there for yourself, you're working with a project contributor, another person, another collaborator who has that experience. And then the last component is this community engagement piece. So is there a commitment to supporting the creative community in Brampton and your artistic discipline? And then a connection to our mandate and our core values of Brampton Arts Org. So collaboration, community, inclusivity. Those are some of the values that we like to put forth through our programming. So you can take a look on our website at what those are more deeply. And that could be a good thing to mirror back to us in an application. Okay, so I believe the next part we'll go through is the application itself. I'm going to go through some high-level bits of the application and some tips and tricks, and then we can look at the physical, well, it's the digital online application itself on our website. So just from a high-level glance, what you're going to see in the application is an eligibility screening. So are you 18 years of age or older? Do you live in Brampton? Profile, your name, number, your email, so we can get in touch with you following the application. We do a voluntary self-identification. We ask you about the program, we ask you about your artistic experience, and then there's opportunity for you to put in supporting materials. And that could look like a whole bunch of different types of things. So when we break down the application, a big part and a big score of your application, like we just saw, is the about the program. This is really what's going to give the selection panel a feeling for your workshop, the scope of it. Is it realistic? Have you thought it through? Does it make sense for you as a creative to be leading this? So in your project description, you want to make this clear and concise. You never know how many applications the selection panel is going to be reading. There's going to be lots of different ideas, lots of different types of workshops. The more clear and to the point you can get makes it easier for the selection panel and really makes your program, your application shine. It's important to follow the word count. In our application, you aren't able to go over, but I would say too that if we've made a word count suggestion, try and follow it. You don't want to be putting a one sentence description when we're asking for 3 sentences or so. So it's sort of a prompt or a guide for you too to help us learn about your project. Your budget, so it's up to $750. Types of things you can include in your budget, and we'll look at some examples of previous budgets together. This would be your artist fees, your insurance, any materials, equipment rentals, venue rental, any incidental fees. If you wanted to provide snacks for your workshop or something like that, that could also be included in the budget as well. So talking about budgets, these are obviously a bit bigger budgets than the amount of funding for this round. But the budget is really a place for you to tell the story of your event and for us to see in the infrastructure, the backbones of your project and how you're building it. So a big important part of that is artist fees. That's a big value to us at Brampton Artswork, that we are paying appropriate artist fees. Depending on the discipline, there's a number of different bodies that you can look to set those artist fees. And if you're struggling to figure that out, feel free to email us. So we have one budget here with an artist fee to facilitator, and then the budget on the right-hand side, we see it's for a dance project, and they're using standards from the Canadian Alliance of Dance Artists. So depending on this CARFAC rates, which I think is what's coming from the budget on the left, so those are typically for visual artists, but can get used across disciplines. So just you can see a couple of examples here of projects and what they've included. And then I won't open this now, but there's another great example of a budget here for an artist market. So when I send these slides over, you'll be able to take a look at those for yourself. Okay, so going back to the application and the section on about your program or workshop. In this section, you're going to be telling us how the project will benefit the audiences that you've identified and the community that you're looking at. So some questions to ask yourself here are, who is the project serving? Why is it needed? Why does it make sense for BOW to support your program? I'm sure the program could be deserving of support and funding, but if it's not aligned with what we're trying to do through this program or what we are doing at BOW, it may not be a fit. So this is the point where you're going to be speaking to us and telling us why it's us that makes sense to be helping and supporting you with your project. In terms of your artistic background, this is where you're telling us who you are, your education, your recent professional experience, if you had any awards that you may have won. It's not necessary to have education or awards, but this is a space where you could tell us why you're doing the work that you are, and it'll make a clear connection to us in terms of the workshop that you're proposing. Talking about your artistic background, what is your experience? Why are you a fit? I would suggest that if you have a friend or family member who doesn't work in the arts, who may not be, writing grants or familiar with this type of work, to share your application with them. And if they're able to understand it, then you've done a great job. But if they are confused around what you're proposing and your learning goals and things maybe feel a little bit out of place, it could be good to go back and readjust and rejig a couple things for your application. In terms of support materials, there's tons of different things you could submit to us depending on what your workshop is. It could be a letter of reference, it could be images of your work, images of you at a workshop, script samples, it could be a video, an audio recording, whatever type of material that you think would best support demonstrating that you're going to be the one that can carry out this program, and maybe you've done stuff in the past, and this would be the space to provide us with that information. Okay, so just before we get to Q&A, I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to bring up our application from our website, and then we can open it up to some more questions. So, get my screen going. Okay, so actually here, this is the other budget that I was speaking about. Let me make this a bit bigger for us to look at. So this is for an artist market. This one's quite detailed, but could be a template that you may want to take for yourself. You don't have to reinvent everything. There's tons of great templates on Google and artists in your network too. If they've ever applied for a grant or something, I think it's great to share. So you can see here, they've paid themselves. They've decided they want a photographer. They've gone with Duo for event insurance. So it's pretty affordable, just over $20. They've got equipment rentals. They're doing food and drink. They've done transportation reimbursement, posters, so some marketing dollars, and then an emergency fund. So I think this is just a great example, a really holistic budget that's got a lot of thought put into it. And it tells a story of how you could see the event coming together itself. Okay, and if we go to the website now, under open calls, we scroll down, we can find our Community Connects call for programming proposals. So these are the full program guidelines here. And if we scroll down some more, we'll find the link to the application itself, which will open. Here we have the application and drop form. So we have our eligibility screening at the top, your applicant profile, your identification. Here's the information where you're telling us about the project. So a title, a summary of the workshop, a longer description. If there are any project contributors, you would name them here. Online, in person, anticipated number of attendees, start date, any engagement methods that you are making, an age group if you had one. The budget can be linked here, so you could link us to a Google Sheet or something else. Identifying the community or neighborhood you want to work with, letting us know where the workshop is taking place. We then move into your artistic experience. And then at the end here, we have the room for supporting materials. So you can upload up to 3. We ask for a minimum of 1. You don't need to do 3. If your one support material you think, really shines brightly, that's more than enough. And then just sign off here, the privacy statement and all that. So this is just a little bit about the application. And like I said, there is still, I think, 2 weekends left. June 22nd is the close date of the application. So if you did have questions, feel free to reach out. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to open it up for questions from folks. If you did have anything, feel free to ask. If you wanted to share a little bit more about your project, you didn't get a chance to do so, I'm going to open up the floor. Go ahead, David.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, okay, great. I had a question about the eligibility for organizations that are located in Brampton, but not necessarily the owners board of directors live in Brampton? Would they still be eligible?
This is a bit of a tricky one. I may need to know more about the project itself. The funding is really meant to be for orgs in Brampton and artists and creatives in Brampton. So it's possible that you could make an argument that the program is needed for the community in Brampton. We would also need to have an understanding that you know the community in Brampton as well, coming from outside. So it's a bit of a not exact answer, but does that help for now?
Sure. I can kind of give you one group I'm working with is like it's a capoeira academy. And I'm not sure if the owner of the academy lives in Brampton, but the academy is based in Brampton and they do a lot of work in the community for Brampton.
Okay, well,
So
yeah,
I don't know if that would make eligibility.
I would suggest to send me an email. I'll put it in the chat now. It'll also be in the slide deck when that gets sent out. But maybe we can just discuss a little bit more to make sure
Sure.
it would make sense.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So my main field is dance, Caribbean dance. However, let's say for this event, I want to also add in maybe like a drumming session, right? For like Caribbean arts and wellness. I know you said you want it to kind of fit into our wheelhouse of discipline. So would that be okay to add in the drumming aspect and have another like artist come in?
I think so, yes. Like if you're putting in your application like project contributors, like if you have enough awareness of who those folks would be, I think it's sort of just as long as yourself, the dancer, isn't the one doing the drumming, if that's not your field of practice, but that just to show us that you are working with folks that are, skilled in what they're doing. And I think we like projects that bring together different things, different people, different ideas, but just that you're working with people that, make sense for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll leave another space open for maybe like 30 seconds or so, or a minute. I'll just be quiet and I'll let you unmute yourself if you wanted to ask something or think it through, and then we can chat it through. Okay, it sounds like maybe there aren't any more questions, but everyone has my email. I'll share the slides and the recording of our conversation today. So please do feel free to reach out if something else comes up or you had another question. I'm happy to talk it through and excited to read the proposals if you do decide to send one in. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of your afternoon and hope to see you out at some Brampton Arts Org events in the future. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your day.